Millions of people are screaming at their screens. They're donning team colors. They're feeling completely devastated. All because a handful of players missed a shot. But amidst this roaring ocean of fans, there is a massive, silent island. If you look at their brain biology, it's not that they're missing the broadcast. They're simply tuned to a frequency the stadium doesn't transmit. Don't go anywhere. The facts I'm revealing today will completely transform the way you perceive the athletic obsessives in your life. Here is the secret no one mentions. Having zero interest in athletics doesn't make you dull. It doesn't mean you lack enthusiasm, and it certainly doesn't imply you're broken. But there is a captivating process occurring in your head, one that is entirely distinct from the majority of the population who worship sports like a religion. You know, if I'm being honest, I think that's where the real story starts. Not in the stands, but in the silence. It's strange, isn't it? How we label normal based on who yells the loudest. But, well, let's look at the data. Let's begin with the big question. Why is everyone so invested? People are pack animals. For eons, belonging to a clan meant staying alive. Your pack was your shield. It kept you fed. It kept you safe. And today's sports teams? They are essentially digital age campfires. The tribal paint is neon. The war cries are broadcast in 4K. When a fan observes their squad, their system pumps out oxytocin. That's the attachment chemical. It's the identical substance that makes you bond with your kids. Crazy, right? Their mind actually tricks them into believing these wealthy players are their own blood relatives. But here is where it gets engaging. Individuals who ignore sports usually possess what experts term reduced collective drives. Their identity isn't a boat tied to a massive, swaying pier of group identity. They are anchored in their own bedrock. They are more autonomous. They are quicker to think, I don't require a mass movement to feel whole. And there is legitimate data backing this. Psychological research suggests that those with zero sports engagement demonstrate significantly lower in-group bias. In other words, they don't instinctively despise the rival city just because they aren't wearing the same colors. Just wait, it gets stranger. Because what unfolds in the skull of a die-hard supporter during a match is genuinely alarming. You know that sensation when you check your phone for a text? That specific suspense? That is the brain turning into a slot machine that pays out in pure emotion. Every play is a fresh pull of the lever. It keeps the fan glued to the seat by the promise of the next flashing lights. It is biologically habit-forming. Investigations utilizing brain imaging reveal that cheering for your club triggers the exact same pleasure pathways as betting or other intensely gripping habits. And here is the twist. The doubt is what makes it so potent. You have no clue if your side will triumph. That volatility keeps the chemicals surging. It is a variable reward schedule, the most compelling conditioning loop known to behavioral science. It is the very mechanism that makes casinos so impossible to leave. The process is frighteningly close to other types of compulsive habits. Your mind doesn't really differentiate between various sources of chemical reward. It simply understands it craves more. For individuals who ignore athletics, their reward circuits just aren't activated by secondhand rivalry. And this could be purely biological. Investigation from the University of Chicago indicates that mutations in dopamine receptor genes can actually predict how deeply someone invests in competitive spectator events. Think about that. Your total lack of concern regarding who takes the championship might literally be hardwired into the very blueprints of your mental architecture. But there is another level. Enthusiasts go through a phenomenon known as BIRGing, or basking in reflected glory. If the squad triumphs, they scream, "We did it!" If the squad fails, they blew it. Observe the linguistic shift. Folks who aren't obsessed with games are less prone to this mental chameleon skin. Their sense of self doesn't change colors just because a group of strangers in another state won a game. They don't require external conquests to feel accomplished. Their self-worth is more constant. It is less reliant on events entirely beyond their influence. Now, before the comments section goes into a frenzy, I'm not claiming one path is superior. But I am stating there are valid mental distinctions, and comprehending them is fascinating. Here is a detail that seems paradoxical. Supporters frequently rank higher on specific compassion scales. They essentially practice worrying intensely about others' hardships, even if those folks are random strangers wearing their colors. So, why don't non-watchers feel that connection to players? It comes down to emotional distribution. Everyone has a limited reservoir of emotional fuel. Instead of burning it all to power a stadium's floodlights, sports abstainers use it to heat their own homes, or to light up their own creative workshops. A 2021 analysis discovered that individuals with minimal athletic engagement tested much higher in openness to new experiences and the appreciation of aesthetics. They are deriving their emotional peaks from paintings, from melodies. From the outdoors or complex concepts, their minds are hunting for the identical prize: significance, bonding, and awe. They are simply locating it elsewhere. And let's get real about another factor. For certain folks, ignoring the game is effectively a protective shield. Perhaps they were teased during PE lessons. Perhaps they felt pushed out by the locker room vibe. Perhaps they are rejecting the hostile rivalry frequently linked to fan culture. Or perhaps they just never understood why grown-ups yell at screens over a leather sphere. Your apathy might possess a history, or perhaps you just find it dull. Both are legitimate. Here is the segment that clarifies the massive gap between enthusiasts and skeptics. It boils down to how you process significance. Supporters derive value from the plot, the long shot, the turnaround, the legacy, the feud. It's gripping because it's volatile. It is unscripted theater with real consequences. Folks who ignore athletics frequently view that instability as pointless. They reason, why devote feelings to a result I cannot influence, executed by strangers I will never meet, in a contest that impacts nothing in my reality? They aren't mistaken, but neither are the fans. It is simply distinct tactics for satisfying the human hunger for myth and purpose. One faction locates grand drama in a season finale. The other discovers it in a book, a partnership, an artistic endeavor, or a lab breakthrough. This is what academics term parasocial attachment versus active involvement. Spectators forge one-sided bonds with franchises and stars. Non-sports individuals favor directing mental resources where there is genuine give and take, where their concern actually changes the result, where they are players, not onlookers. Neither is better. They are merely separate gears for moving through life. Mihai Csikszentmihalyi, the expert on optimal psychology, discovered that flow states, those intervals of total immersion, can be triggered by infinite pursuits. For some, it is viewing a match. For others, it is literally anything else. And here is what is truly compelling. Individuals who don't obsess over leagues often describe feeling more grounded in their personal reality. They aren't dedicating 3 hours every weekend absorbing another person's battle. They are immersed in their own. There is something silently revolutionary about that. I suppose, when you step back and look at the whole picture, it's quite simple. We're all just looking for a reason to feel alive. And if your reason isn't on a scoreboard, well, maybe you're playing a much bigger game. So, what is the takeaway? If you are indifferent to athletics, you aren't bypassing some essential human emotion. You are simply distinct. Your mind's pleasure circuits, your pack drives, your compassion distribution, they are all tuned uniquely. And that is totally fine. The next moment somebody inquires, "Did you catch the final?" and you honestly could not give a damn, recall this: you aren't defective. You aren't dull. You are just busy building your own cathedral while everyone else is cheering for the architects of a temporary stage. And that is the game that truly matters.